This is no ordinary sub shop. This is Firehouse Subs.
Welcome to Firehouse!
Tired of overpriced lunches that underdeliver on flavor? Head to Firehouse Subs, where for a limited time you can get a $4.99 choice sub. Choose from a medium smoked turkey, Virginia honey ham, or roast beef. They're custom-made hot subs at a price ready-made to make you smile. Just $4.99, only at Firehouse Subs. Enjoy more subs, save more lives. Participating locations plus tax, limited time offer. Prices may vary for delivery.
Infirmary Media.
They're coming to get you, Barbra.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk here.
I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains. I'm gonna bash them right the fuck in.
What an excellent day for an exorcism.
They're here.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 92 of the Video Rangers podcast. I'm Mike Ranger, continuing Frightober. And welcome back to another one of our Employee Picks episodes with a bit of a Frightober twist. We're going to do things a little differently. Normally, we have a few people on and we pick 5 movies each, read the back of the box, share some quick thoughts, and decide at the end if we're going to be kind and rewind. Since I'm by myself, basically what I thought we'd do, and since it's October, since it's Frightober, man, I hope that girl's okay. I gotta tell you, this weather has been terrible the past couple of weeks. So what we're gonna do is, I basically thought that I'd give you a list of 10 classic horror movies, read the back of the box like we normally do, and then kind of tell you why this movie is worth your time today. So, you know, for some of you, you may have seen some of these, but for people that maybe don't watch a whole lot of classic horror, don't really, maybe they don't think it's interesting, maybe, you know, just don't know where to start. I thought it'd be cool to kind of just go through 10 movies that I think are worth your time, even today, and just kind of give you an idea where you can start and branch out from there. And I'll tell you what I did was I mixed it up a little bit, and I wanted to give you like at least one mystery movie, a haunting or a ghost story. You got to have some Vincent Price. You got to have some William Castle. I could have went all Universal on this, like the Universal Monsters or something. I only did one of those. I wanted to break it up. I didn't want to, because honestly, you could do that. Universal monster movies are that good where I could rattle off 10 and you could be happy with those. But I wanted to give you a good mix. We've got some schlock. We've got some atomic age, some sci-fi, some zombie, some Roger Corman. You gotta have some Boris Karloff. Gotta have some Bela Lugosi. And I figured I'd pick out an anthology type movie for all the Creepshow fans. And I think actually everything on this list, with the exception of maybe one of these, is all in black and white. These are the perfect kind of movies to sit down and watch during Frightober. So the first movie on my list is a mystery movie from 1945, and that's And Then There Were None, based on the Agatha Christie novel. And she was a kind of like a whodunit mystery writer, and she also did Murder on the Orient Express. You know, if you're a fan of Clue, you might notice a few things here. I love how this movie goes about presenting itself. I love that in the beginning of the movie, each of the characters step right towards the camera, look into it, break the fourth wall, and introduce themselves. I think that's absolutely fucking perfect. There's a lot of cool things in this movie. There's, you know, the poem 10 Little Indians basically recites how each person will get picked off. It's a really cool mystery movie. It's going to have you guessing to the end. Let's read the back of the box real quick. Agatha Christie's world-famous novel 10 Little Indians is brought to the screen with all of its baffling suspense and a star-studded cast headed by Academy Award winner Barry Fitzgerald. 10 people, strangers to each other, are invited to a lavish estate on an island. Through a recording, their mysterious host accuses each of his guests of murder and proceeds to exact justice. The tension mounts as one by one the number of people are reduced through the ingenious plotting of the unseen killer. Finally, only 2 are left, and each is uncertain as to whether or not the other is the murderer. This is a really, really cool movie, man. It holds up. And Then There Were None. Totally worth your time. All right, up next for our second movie is your haunting or your ghost movie. And there's a lot to choose from here, but this one is one of my all-time favorites, and it's actually pretty fucking scary. This is 1963's The Haunting. Let's read the back of the box. It was an evil house from the beginning, a house that was born bad. The place is the 90-year-old mansion called Hill House. No one lives there, or so it seems. But please do come in, because even if you don't believe in ghosts, there's no denying the terror of The Haunting. Robert Wise returned to psychological horror for this much admired first screen adaptation of Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House. 4 people come to a house to study its supernatural phenomena, or has the house drawn at least one of them to it? The answer will unnerve you in this elegantly sinister scare movie. It's good fun. Pauline Kael of 5001 Nights of Movies writes. This one's a good one, man. It's just you may not believe in ghosts, but you can't deny the terror. Honestly, man, this is a very good movie. It's actually pretty damn fucking scary. They do a great job with everything, and it's 1963. They do not have to shoot this movie in black and white, but director Robert Wise shot it in black and white because he loved the depth and the rich atmosphere quality that you would get from that kind of film. And he's absolutely right. That's a lot of the reason why I think it works. And that's actually a lot of the reason why I think it might sound a little weird, but some of these movies, some of the scares are so genuine and classic. They hold up in a way that I guess the only thing I can compare it to is like if you are, let's say you're a gamer and you're into retro video games, then you know that your 8-bit and your 16-bit games seem to hold up better today than the 32-bit era. You know, the sprites look a lot better than the 3D polygons. There's something very simple and classic about black and white, and in this case, and in a lot of cases of these movies, the black and white really works for the movie and helps add to some of the terror. This movie was remade in 1999. Catherine Zeta-Jones is in it. I think Liam Neeson's in it. Not nearly as good. This one really does, you know, it's classic. There's not much. It's totally worth your time. And I believe on October 12th of this year, The Haunting of Hill House is coming out, and I guess that's going to be, I don't know if it's inspired from the movie or inspired from the book. I guess we'll find out. By the time you listen to this, it'll already be out, so definitely go check that out. I'm going to be. All right, up next, we needed to get some class in here, and that's why we needed to pair Vincent Price and William Castle together in the 1959 classic, The House on Haunted Hill. Now, for those of you who don't know, William Castle was like a gimmicky kind of director. He was a master of like bringing in the audience. He was the kind of guy that's going to have buzzers in the seats. He's going to make you sign a waiver before you go see the movie so you can't sue if you get too scared. You know, there's going to be things coming out of the screen, 3D, fucking blood dripping on your head, ghosts running around the building. You know, everything was a big fucking spectacle. It was a show. And if any of this sounds familiar, then you're probably a fan of Joe Dante's Matinee starring John Goodman, because that movie is basically a tribute to William Castle. And Vincent Price is Vincent Price. The guy's a fucking genius. I mean, I literally could have picked almost any Vincent Price movie and it would have totally worked here. But Vincent Price paired with William Castle, whether you're watching The House on Haunted Hill or you're watching The Tingler or you're watching any other movie that Vincent Price made, I mean, the guy was just spectacular to watch. He is horror. If you were building like a Mount Rushmore of classic horror actors, you have to put him there. But then again, there's a bunch of other guys that you have to put there too. There's a lot of good things. There's a lot of things to like in the House of Haunted Hill. The premise, the way that they go about using the camera and listen, there's a lot of silly effects in this movie. This movie's been riff tracked. This movie has been made fun of. This movie is I think it's public access now. You can find it in any one of those fucking 50 horror movie packs. But let's read the back of the box, because this is a really fucking fun one, man. And there's some cool little gimmicks here that we'll talk about. Eccentric millionaire Frederick Lauren, Vincent Price, throws a haunted house party for his nasty wife, Annabelle. Carol Omart? I never say any of these names right. In this cult classic from director William Castle, Lauren offers 5 guests $10,000 each if they can survive a night in the house on Haunted Hill, which is said to be haunted by the ghost of 7 people who were murdered there. And they won't be the only ones. Written by Castle's frequent collaborator Rob White, macabre and homicidal, the film was originally released in Emergo, in which a glowing skeleton emerged from the screen and flew right over the audience's heads. Co-starring with Price, who is reunited with Castle and White for The Tingler the next year, are Richard Long and character actor Eliza Cook Jr. Oh, she's in The Maltese Falcon. Nice. And that's what I'm talking about with William Castle, this whole Emergo thing. I mean, to have a glow-in-the-dark skeleton fly over the audience, he really knew how to entertain, and I fucking wish we can get back to that. Like, honestly, man, if you want to get people back in the theater, that might be one of the ways to do it, man. We have to grow the experience, because by this point, we like to think that we've seen it all, and things are not scaring us the way they used to. So maybe we need to bring back some of this classic fucking gimmicky scare stuff. Like, I'd love to have a buzzer in my seat for a horror movie. That'd be fucking great. But one of the cool gimmicks for this movie is, like, and modern audiences might not really think that this is scary, but if you can imagine yourself in an old movie theater, with a balcony, and it's giant, the screen's fucking huge, you're not in a multiplex. The movie opens up to complete darkness, and you sit there for a minute, and then out of nowhere, this ear-piercing fucking scream and howl, and like, just out of nowhere. And it's not like that happens and then you immediately go to a picture. They keep you in the darkness while they're playing this shit. I'm sure William Castle was glad that he made you sign that waiver before you entered the theater, because you would have been, you would have lawyered up really quick. Maybe that's why we can't make these anymore. Somebody would sue the theater for getting scared. But honestly, if you see this movie, and if you've ever seen Matinee with John Goodman, Joe Dante, that movie is such a nice tribute to William Castle. William Castle was so influential on the horror genre, like really getting it fucking noticed, and it's really a lot of his work that inspired Hitchcock to go out and make Psycho. It said, everybody's making horror movies and they're making a lot of money, but what if somebody good made a horror movie? Not to mention, you get a fucking great performance from Vincent Price in this movie. I can't say enough good things about this one. And it's a cheesy fucking movie. It's not really, it's not perfect at all, but it's a ton of fucking fun. Yeah, I can't recommend this one enough. Totally worth your time. All right, we're finally gonna get a Universal horror movie on this list, because you couldn't, no classic horror movie list will be complete without it. And, honestly, you could choose any. You really could. But one of the ones that I really like, and one of the ones that I find myself going back to the most, is 1941's The Wolfman. It's The Wolfman. Lon Chaney Jr. It's just fucking great. It's all about the fog in this movie. The gypsy woman is, the way she speaks, everything is so fucking good. The transformation scene, I mean, is just incredible for what you're working with at the time and what they were able to do with that. And is the Wolfman scary? Certainly not by today's standards, but it's the Wolfman. It's classic. Let's read the back of the box. Larry Talbot returns to his family estate in Wales after having spent 18 years in the United States. He's now the heir to the family estate after the death of his older brother, John. His father, Sir John Talbot, welcomes him back warmly, and he soon settles into local life. Larry takes an interest in the local girl, Gwen, but when walking her and her friend home late one evening, is bitten by a wolf. We don't even need to read the back of the box. We all know what this story is. The guy gets bit by a fucking werewolf. He becomes a wolf himself. Every time the moon comes out, he becomes a wolf. And I mean, it's simple, but it works so well here. And a lot of these movies, especially these old ones, it's all about the performances. You get great performances out of these people. The gypsy woman is incredible in this. Like, she really sets the mood. And Lon Chaney Jr., I mean, this is like a party. It's just like these parts. These guys are just born to play it. When you see Bela Lugosi play Dracula, it's like, yeah, who else could play Dracula but Bela Lugosi? When you see Boris Karloff play Frankenstein, you know, it's, yeah, maybe anybody could have done that, but it's classic, man. There's something about it. You know, later on when they replaced him with Bela Lugosi, it didn't really look right. Maybe because you were so used to looking at the Boris Karloff, you know, facial structure. But, yeah, you can't go wrong with a Universal monster movie. All right, let's get a little schlock in here. We got to get, you know, like, this is the Video Rangers podcast, and this is Frightober. Bring on the B movies. All right, I chose the 1959 cult classic, The Killer Shrews. This is a really fun movie. It's silly. It's kind of hard to believe that anybody thought that it was a good idea to make this. But for some reason, the simplicity of it all actually fucking works. I mean, it's ridiculous, this whole idea that, like, fucking these killer shrews, these giant killer shrews, but honestly, it's a man versus nature kind of story. This is science, and nature, and like what the effects of it are. And, you know, is man going too far with the, fucking with, you know, playing God and genetically changing things. So let's read the back of the box. All right. So this movie, stars, James Best. And if you don't know who that is, then you must not watch a whole lot of Dukes of Hazzard. Shooting this man in, Hazard County. All right. So he stars in this schlock classic about giant shrews that consume their body weight every 8 hours. James Best is Thorne Sherman, forced by a hurricane to take refuge on an isolated island of Dr. Marlowe, whose experiments mutated the hungry critters. Thorne makes a friend in the doctor's daughter and an enemy in his assistant, but they must all work together when the fur starts to fly. So, you know what's really fucking cool about this? So the way that they got these big, gigantic killer shrews was that they put these costumes on dogs. So when you see the shrews running around in the movie, you can totally tell it's just a bunch of dogs with like a fucking costume on. It's really fucking silly, man. This is another one that's fallen into public domain. Almost all of these I've mentioned so far, with the exception of, I think, the Wolfman, you can watch on Amazon Prime right now. Or you can at least find it somewhere for free. The Killer Shrews it's a lot of fun. Definitely like worth a look. You know, I mean, even Mystery Science 3000 has gotten in on the joke on this one. Up next for number 6, we got to get some 50s stuff in there. We got to get like some nuclear, like atomic age, you know, fucking man fucking with science kind of shit in there. So I chose 1954's Them. And I mean, we needed a monster movie. And that's exactly what this is, you know, like the effects of atomic radiation on simple, everyday, like, you know, the common ant. The common ant who can already lift like 100 times its fucking weight. Can you imagine a giant version of it? So let's read the back of the box. Man has split the atom and ushered in a new era. But how could he know he would also create them? Them, 1954, is a landmark movie about giant radiation mutated ants that gets better with age and boasts remarkable Academy Award nominated special effects. Starring James Whitmore, James Arness, and Edmund Gwenn, Them begins in New Mexico with a child wandering in shock, a ransacked general store, and a battered corpse full of enough formic acid to kill 20 men. It ends with an epic struggle in the 700-mile of storm drains under Los Angeles, where the insect hordes are beaten, but they're not conquered because they spawned a generation of films about radioactive creatures. Some approximate the terror, but few have equaled the artistry of Them. And, there is a lot of these. There's a movie called Tarantula with like a big fucking spider. And these are so much fucking fun. And again, if you're into the movie matinee, you'll see Them, Tarantula, The Incredible Shrinking Man, The Fly, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. They all get a respectful nod from Joe Dante in Matinee 1993. So if you haven't seen that, if watching Matinee doesn't make you want to go back and maybe check out what the feel was of like the movies from the 30s to the early 60s, you really gotta, there's something so fucking cool about them. I watch a ton of this stuff. This is when I think of Halloween, and a lot of it has to do with when I was growing up, when AMC would do, because AMC used to really just play it was like playing classic movies. That's what that channel was. So, when Halloween rolled around, that's what they were playing. They were playing the classic monster movies. And that's where I first started to notice these. And what was great about these is when I was a kid, a lot of these weren't very scary to me. So they were approachable horror movies, and they've stuck with me. And to this day, I love sitting down and watching some of these classic horror movies. This movie locked me from the beginning. When you see that little girl just aimlessly walking down the street, or not the street, a highway, in her pajamas, in complete shock, wide-eyed. The police are put her in the fucking car. She doesn't even fucking notice. She's just staring into space. She's so fucking freaked out. And that always stayed with me. And it's just, I love the radioactive monster movies. Who doesn't fucking like that? This is Godzilla. This is King Kong. Totally worth your time. All right. So for my next movie, we got to do something in the sci-fi realm. So I took it to 1951 and a movie called The Thing from Another World. Great classic monster sci-fi horror movie. 50s, black and white. Let's read the back of the box. Arctic researchers discover a huge frozen spaceling inside a crash-landed UFO, then fight for their lives after the murderous being emerges from icy captivity. Will other creatures soon follow? The famed final words of this film are both a warning and an answer. Keep watching the skies. This fucking movie, and this movie, if it sounds familiar, if this movie at all sounds familiar, well, the reason that this movie is on this list, the reason that I even saw it is because of John Carpenter's The Thing. When I found out that John Carpenter's The Thing was based on this movie, was basically a remake of this, I had to see it because The Thing is one of my all-time favorite movies. And this one holds up too, man. And it's just fucking cool. It's basically The Thing, but a 50s version of it. So, it's not ultra realistic. There's a few scares though. There's a few moments that'll get you. It's a Howard Hawks production. Howard Hawks was a big director. This is a guy that directed John Wayne movies, and he does a solid fucking job here. And it shows you when you get some of the bigger directors involved, and you can get a little money behind something, they can do some great stuff. And guys that you don't necessarily associate with these kind of films end up showing you something. So definitely worth a watch. The Thing from Another World. Classic film, totally worth your time. The Thing from Another World, Howard Hawks, definitely will have you watching the skies. All right, it's time for number 8, and I think people might have saw this coming. You can't talk classic horror. You can't talk classic black or white horror without mentioning George Romero, 1968's Night of the Living Dead, the zombie movie that truly started it all, at least the zombie movie as we know it. I mean, they all owe it to this fucking film. This is the very first horror movie I ever saw, quickly followed by The Day of the Triffids, which is not on this list. Why I saw this at a very, very young age. I was not even 4 and this was playing. Have no idea why, and I got a fucked up story to go with that. But let's read the back of the box. Brother and sister, Johnny and Barbara, travel to a remote town in Pennsylvania to visit the gravesite of their deceased father. But the dreaded trip turns into a terrifying nightmare when a flesh-eating zombie attacks the pair, killing Johnny. Barbara escapes and runs to the first residence she sees, a lone farmhouse where a group of people have taken refuge against the monsters. But their hiding place isn't safe for long. When darkness falls, a mass of zombies descends upon the house, and by the dawning of the next day, all that's left is a single sole survivor. Way to go, Box. Way to ruin the fucking movie. I mean, what can you say? I mean, this is it. This is the one. And this movie still is fucking scary, man. The black and white is perfect for this movie because you really do feel like these zombies are coming out of the darkness. I can only imagine an audience seeing this in 1968 because this is so drastically different. It's so much more brutal than what you're used to seeing. I mean, the only thing more demented than this is probably fucking Carnival of Souls, something like that, which would kind of maybe prepare you for some shit like this. But yeah, I saw this at a very young age. My parents had it. It was one of the first movies we had. It must have been cheap or something. I mean, but yeah, I want to say 1986. For some reason, I was at a church and I was probably fussing. I'm about 4 years old and I'd seen the movie and it freaked me out, and my father fucking took me outside and we start walking through the cemetery that was like right next to the church, and he starts, with the
"They're coming to get you, Barbara."
Dude, I lost my fucking shit, man. And to this day, man, like, it's not that I'm scared to watch the movie, but that's what it reminds me of. It's kind of a fucking traumatic event. But yeah, The Night of the Living Dead, if you have not seen the original, what are you doing with your life? Totally worth your time. All right, you know what? We're up to number 9, and we haven't talked about Boris Karloff or Bela Lugosi just yet. We had to put them on the list. I didn't want to give you Dracula. I didn't want to give you Frankenstein. I wanted to go with something that is a little bit obscure, but really well done. This is a very good movie. And in this movie, there's no monsters. These are real people. And real people, in a lot of ways, are scarier than the monsters. This is Bella and Boris's 8th and final on-screen appearance where they appear together. All right, let's read the back of the box. This is, of course, a Val Lewton movie. He did a lot of kind of spooky, different, he didn't go full monster with it. Not so much as Universal did. His movies are pretty interesting. And what I have is I have a DVD set with 2 movies. I Walked with a Zombie and The Body Snatcher. And The Body Snatcher, 1945, is a fucking really cool fucking movie. And it's a little something different than I think you were, because you really want Boris Karloff and you want Bela Lugosi in the same movie. You want them to have great on-screen chemistry. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for Frankenstein versus Dracula. You don't really get that in any of those movies. So anytime you get them on screen together, it's solid. And in this movie, Boris Karloff plays the title role in the Lewton adaptation of Robert Louis Stevens' The Body Snatcher, directed with a subtle calculation by versatile Robert Wise. And this movie's basically, it's about a doctor who needs cadavers for medical studies, and Karloff is willing to provide them for him, as long as he gets paid. And, it's great because, Bela Lugosi's, he doesn't have a big part in this movie. And, Boris Karloff certainly had the bigger career in terms of getting more tight, like big leading roles. Bela Lugosi's, accent really kind of held him back from getting roles. Like, he's perfect for Dracula, but it's kind of hard at the time to put him in anything else. So he's always playing like a hunchback, or he's always playing, like a broken, beat up kind of character. And in a lot of ways, this movie kind of works as a metaphor for how their careers went. Karloff's performance in this is great. Bella's performance in this is absolutely phenomenal. This is a cool one to check out. Totally worth your time. All right, here we go for the very final movie, number 10. Another classic film to add to your Frightober. I'd help her, but I have no idea where she is. So yeah, this is an anthology movie, and we haven't had any Roger Corman yet. All right, number 10, the final movie. We had to give you an anthology movie. For all you Creepshow fans out there, for all you body bags, Tales from the Crypt, kind of 4 stories rolled into one thing. This is great. This one's 3 tales. It's a Roger Corman movie. If you don't know who Roger Corman is, what are you doing with your life, guys? Vincent Price, who does a lot of Roger Corman stuff, also does a lot of Edgar Allan Poe inspired movies, and he's perfect for it. Peter Lorre is in this fucking movie, and if you don't know who Peter Lorre is, you would know him if you grew up watching Looney Tunes and then you looked up Peter Lorre and you heard him talk and you saw his face, you would be like, oh, that's who that is, because he was in a lot. They definitely inserted a Peter Lorre-like character in more than a few fucking Looney Tunes. So yeah, this one's 3 stories. Let's read the back of the box. All right. Tales of Terror is 3 short stories, Morella, the Black Cat, and the Case of Mr. Valdemar, based on the works of the master horror writer Edgar Allan Poe, and feature Vincent Price in the starring role. Now, so yeah, you got Vincent Price, you got Peter Lorre, you got Basil Rathbone. Each tale is, each tale's a little different. My favorite is the Peter Lorre one. I just love the way he carries himself. There's a lot of little cool things in here. I don't want to ruin. That's the hardest part about these movies, is to talk about them and try not to spoil anything for anybody who hasn't seen them, because you can't get that moment back again. Your kid walks, you're not looking. Well, you missed it. These are it, guys. If you've never really gotten into classic horror, if you don't know where to start, if you kind of, maybe you haven't seen this stuff in a while, it's definitely worth a revisit. We're getting so much rehashed garbage these days. Why not look back to the classics and just enjoy things that are, they're their own thing. These are all definitely worth your time. And certainly they're fantastic for Frightober. But honestly, we'd like to hear from you. What are some of your classic horror movie favorites? Which films do you recommend? Reach out to us. You can Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Just type in Video Rangers Podcast. I'm sure we'll pop up. And don't forget, if you're, taking pictures of the horror movies that you're watching and putting them on Instagram, use the hashtag Frightober 2018. We'd love to see what you guys are watching. We really do. We're going to be back for a few more weeks for a whole lot more Frightober. Well, she's still screaming. She's got to be okay, right? Until next time, if you've seen a scary movie, we're ready to believe you.
Beware of the blob, it creeps and leaps and glides and slides across the floor, right through the door and all around the wall. A splotch, a blotch, be careful of the blob. Beware of the blob, it creeps and leaps and glides and slides across the floor, right through the door and all around the wall. A splotch, a blotch, be careful of the blob. Beware of the blob, it creeps and leaps and glides and slides across the floor.
Infirmary Media.